Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out this evening. My name is Joe Powers, Harwich Town Administrator, and I welcome you all to our Phase 3 Sewer Extension Construction Community Engagement Forum. Before I turn it over to Jeff Gregg, who is the Project Director for the engineer GHD Incorporated, I would like to put on the record some of the folks that are also joining us here this evening on behalf of the town of Harwich, as well as related to the construction project. In the middle of the room, we are joined by two chairs. Noreen Donahue, Chair of the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners, and Sharon Flieger, Chair of the Board of Health. In the back is my colleague in government. We have Carly Jones, our assessor. Thank you, Carly. Good to see you.
Hands up.
Say again?
Hands up. Who are they?
So if you heard the lady, hands up, please. So Noreen Donahue.
Okay.
There we go. Sharon Flieger.
Just want to know who you are.
My colleague in the back, Carly Jones. There we go. All right, now you all heard this. So next up is Craig Trombley. Craig is the project manager for the construction company, Robert B. Allen Construction. Is that good enough? There we go. All right. And on my right, we have Jason Trepanier. Did I do it? All right. Jason joins us as the water wastewater superintendent, and next to him is our assistant wastewater superintendent, John Long. So as I mentioned, we have Jeff Gregg, and joining Jeff is Ivan Gomez. Ivan is the project manager for GHD. Thank you all for coming this evening. We're going to get into quite a bit of information on the construction, which will begin very soon. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Gregg for his presentation, and then we'll all be available for any questions that you may have. But thank you again for coming out this evening to be part of this community engagement forum. We certainly appreciate it. Jeff?
Thank you, Joe. And Jeff Gregg from GHD, and today I'll be walking you through a overview of the project and where we are right now, going into construction, and then at the end, as Joe indicated, we'll open up for questions from you.
Any devices I have. Jeff Gregg, ladies and gentlemen.
Pardon me as I jump between the two. What I'd like to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the public access information and outreach that will be going on during the project, what's available now.
Can you crank up the volume?
Move the mic closer to your mouth.
How's that? Wait. Really?
No.
No?
I'll turn it up. Turn it up.
How's this?
Yeah.
All right, so now I feel like I'm on a real show. I will be dropping the mic later. What I'd like to do is go over the public information that's available now, what's going to be available during construction, review a bit about the construction contracts and tentative schedule, talk about how we identified property services and laterals, talk about what most people are interested in, their sewer sub locations, talk about pumping station locations, traffic control, some things to expect during construction, and what to expect after construction. So for those of you that were here a number of months ago when we presented before, some of this is going to be very similar, and then there was some new information that's put in there, and then, like I said, we will deal with questions. So the town's website right now, if you go to the town's website, there's access to the various different information like the Phase 3 area map, contract drawings, construction updates that will be coming soon, link to get you to your septic plans, and then on the Harwich Water Department site is where all the septic plans are. So there's some tweaking that we need to have done on the town's page in order to go from Phase 2 to Phase 3, but the data is there. It's just we have to follow a few little paths, so we're going to show you a little bit. So for those of you that haven't been to the town's webpage, in the upper right-hand corner, that's the bottom of the town's page. As you scroll down, you will see popular resources, and then you will see a link that says wastewater information. So if you click on that, that will take you to what's shown in the lower left-hand corner, a bunch of the Phase 3 information, and then on the left-hand side of that is also where construction updates will be. Right now, there's no construction updates because we're not technically in construction, but there's Phase 2 information. We'll be updating that and changing that so that will read Phase 3. So just don't want people to be confused. So there is old information from the previous project that will be replaced and updated with a project related to this. And as you can see in that box, I know it's a little hard to read. Actually, it's kind of blurry, so I apologize for that. In that box, when you go onto that page, you will see various things like the Phase 3 map. You'll see the contract documents. You can look up your street and actually open the contract documents for that page. There's other information in there. And then there's also a link to the septic plans where I think right now it says Phase 2 septic plans. If you also go to the Harwich town webpage for their water and wastewater department, you will also see a link to septic plans. That's what's shown in the lower right-hand corner. And there's a clip there, it says septic as-built. And you'll see a folder for contract for Phase 2, and you'll see a separate folder for Phase 3. They're all organized by street again, so you should be able to find your street and your property address if you're looking for that. So, as many of you are aware, Robert B. Allen Company, RBO, has won both contracts, so there are 2 construction contracts that were put out to bid. RBO won both of them, so they are now treating, we are acting as a sort of a giant project, although there's nuances that we're dealing with them management-wise. It's 2 contracts, but for your purposes, it's basically now one large project. The tentative start dates as of right now, and we're still going through the schedule and working through that with the contractor. So they've submitted a tentative schedule, we're working through that. But they are looking to start some of the layout work, which is when they go out and actually mark up roads and get an idea of where they're going to be starting in various different areas. They're going to be starting to do that around November 1st, which is like a Friday, and then they anticipate the road work starting the week of November 4th, which is the following week. They're going to be starting with what we call the contract 2W, which is the western contract, which is essentially up in the Standish Woods area. So they're going to be starting their project up there, and then they have a tentative start date in February where they want to start the contract 1E, which is the larger contract, somewhere around early February. That date is subject to change, and the idea is that they want to get started, kind of ease into it a bit as they're getting neighborhoods used to the construction, and then at some point both construction contracts would be going at the same time. In terms of the construction areas, the 1E contract has 4 pumping stations in it. So there's a pumping station that's going to be constructed on Wilma's Way. There's a pumping station that's being constructed on Pleasant Bay on the eastern side, so basically east of Route 39 and Orleans Road. There's a pumping station on Route 39, basically at the island, so it's sort of the intersection that everyone knows from as 39 turns to head north and Church Street over there. And then there's a pumping station that's located at the cul-de-sac on Wolf Cove. And then in contract 2W, there's one That's basically on Chestnut Lane. It's in the space between cul-de-sac at the end of Chestnut Lane and Martha's cul-de-sac, so it's closer to Chestnut Lane. In terms of the general construction, and I'm sure people have other questions, but in general, contractor's going to be working from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Fridays. They will typically be paving Friday afternoons, close things up. They will be doing special things when it comes to weather, if there's weather conditions or holidays. They will typically not be working on holidays unless they ask for permission, in which case they will issue a formal request. The town will decide whether or not, depending on the type of work that's being done, whether they'll grant that. And then that would be part of the notifications that would go out to the various different, up on the webpage and through our avenues. So if you go onto the town's webpage, some of you may have already done this, the Phase 3 GIS interactive map, that's essentially what this is. This is showing the whole area, it's showing both contracts. You can click on your parcel. In general, what it's intended to do is give you an idea of properties that were anticipated to be connected by gravity, ones that are on a low-pressure sewer system, and then ones that are questionable, where we're not sure either there wasn't enough septic system information or the topography either means that they're possibly going to have to pump up into the gravity system, or they may actually, there's no real choice because they're set too far down below the elevation of the sewer. So it's to give people an idea of that information. The contract, when it was bid, had several what are called bid alternates. So there were areas that could be removed depending on how the value of the bids came in, or other decisions. The town did make a decision not to award the Walden Way portion of the work. And that was done because they are now going to be looking at addressing that in a different manner. And that change may result in the end of Hall's Path being reevaluated. And so I point that out because right now Hall's Path, right here, it's hard to see obviously from the map, but these green parcels at the tail end may actually end up being served through Walden Way, but that's to be determined. So, the collection system. We understand that not many people are engineers or contractors who deal with this stuff normally, so in general, there are gravity sewers that we're going to be putting in. So a lot of the Phase 2 that you're probably familiar with during construction, that's sort of more of the long-standing traditional mode of collecting wastewater. There are pressure sewers, which is a smaller diameter pipe. It's essentially acts like a force main, and people have grinder pumps that pump into the system. So if you had a septic system that had to pump to your leaching field based on the layout of your property, it's the same kind of concept where you physically have to have the pump move the wastewater for you. Then there are pumping stations which are at low points in the system in order to collect all the wastewater so that that can then be sent to basically the gravity sewer that runs to the town of Chatham. So you have an interconnection with the town of Chatham, and you have wastewater that's treated over there. That's how it essentially works. And then each property will have a sewer service lateral. So that is basically from the sewer main to the property line, and that is part of what the contractor is installing. They install from basically the main road to the property line. And then property owners, when they go to make their connection, will be making the connection on the other end, basically from the house down to that location. And then as part of the sewer collection system, there will be paving and site restoration that will be done as part of the process. There is small portions of storm stormwater work that the DPW is looking to have done as they fall behind the collection system going in. Right now, they're looking at replacement of old catch basins, and there are some modifications. I believe the only one that's actually part of this contract is on Connecticut, I believe. And then the town may be addressing some other drainage areas as part of the project, well, as part of their project, which is going to be following behind this project. And then in addition, the water department is doing some limited water service replacements to change out old steel services to new poly. The poly water services. They're going to be doing that also behind the construction. So there's a limited number of those that will also be going. So they're trying to get this utility work done before the contractor does final paving, so that they're not going back to their All right, so as I alluded to, there's a process that we go through during design to identify sewer service laterals. All we can do is work off the best information that's available to us. So what we try to do is we try to look at what the restrictions are, where laterals can be. We don't want them near or on top of other utilities. We want to make sure that is that better?
Yeah.
Sorry. So we want to make sure we try to lay those things out during design, and then there's the opportunity for property owners to comment so that if they prefer to have the location considered in another spot on their property, we can do that. But what we did is we looked at the Board of Health records, so we went through and looked at all the septic plans for all the properties. We would do site visits, we'd look at Google Earth, we'd look at utility records, and try to find where we thought would be the most appropriate location. And in some cases, we were limited by, there are panhandle properties that basically you just have your driveway that comes out to the street and you're surrounded by your neighbors on either side. We understand that there's situations like that. We also know that in some places we're trying to get you connected by gravity, so in order to get you the best connection, we have to be on one side of our main or the other, depending on the way the grade of the ground is. So we had to take all those things into consideration. And we worked through the design, and then we came up with our general location for all this. So when you open up the plan, if you so desire, you can look and you can see a little line that comes off of the main that shows roughly where on the property. we're looking to put it. Now we understand that we're engineers and people have questions, so what we've been doing is if you have a question, you reach out to the town, they put you in touch basically with Ivan and myself, and we go through and we look at what your comment is or what your question is, or if you'd like us to come out or have our resident project representative come out and meet with you in the field and talk about your lateral location, we're happy to do that because we'd rather get it in a location where we'd like to have it. And if there's an issue, we can also talk through with you to say, well, we understand you'd like to have it in this location, but you have other conflicts that are going to make that hard. What Craig and his group are going to do is RBO will go out and they're actually going to provide this notice and a stake. And then they're going to also, per the spec, they're going to go out and actually market it. They're going to either paint on the ground or whatever where the design shows the lateral to be located. And then you can take this stake, you can set it, and put it where you'd like to have your lateral service, depending on if you have an engineer or you just know where you'd like to have it. And then if you haven't contacted us directly through the town, Craig's going to go there and his team is going to look at it and say, oh, the stake's in a different location than where the plan shows. He's going to contact us, and then we'll go through the process of just verifying that, yep, that's okay to have that there. You make sure the owner's okay with that location, and then we will document your lateral location. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions about that, but that's the general process. And Craig, I don't know if I missed anything preparing that or not.
No, you did.
All right. So, pumping station locations. So we talked about this briefly before. You've got Woman's Way, Bow Cove, Pleasant Bay East. So this is Route 39. That's Pleasant Bay Road. You know, again, this is really hard to see. That's the end of Chestnut, and that's the intersection with 39 and Church. So each one of those stations is slightly different from the next. So the larger stations are the Pleasant Bay East Station and the Chestnut Lane Station. Those will actually have a building. They enclose the pump equipment. Those are going to be what's called a suction lift type of pumping station. They will have a generator. All these will have a generator on the outside in an outdoor enclosure. And then Route 39, Bow Cove, and Woman's Way are submersible stations that will have a small electrical enclosure that looks like kind of like a small woodshed. And they'll have the generator, and I'll show you some figures of that in a second. So, suction lift type station, we have a couple of these already. We also have submersible stations with buildings. In this case, our submersibles will not have buildings. The pump equipment sits up here. This is the building and grade. This is what's called the wet well. The piping comes down, draws the wastewater out into the pump, and then it goes back down through a force main to wherever we have it discharged. On a submersible station, this is graded in. You'll have a valve vault, so that just has some valve equipment and I believe a flow meter. And then we have the pumps here, and the wastewater comes into the wet well, and then it's pumped out. Each one of the stations has a backup generator. The building will generally look like this. I can't remember which station that is, but that is one of the ones in Harwich right now. Is that Church Street? Okay. So that's Church Street South, and is that a submersible or is that the Okay, so this is a slightly smaller building. The one that actually has suction lift actually has their generator on the inside, but it's that general look: cedar shingles, white AZAC trim, asphalt shingle roof. It's intended to look more Cape Coddish than a brick building or a block or something to that effect. We understand. Unfortunately, it's a municipal facility and it's going to have other electrical boxes and configurations on it. So this is generally what the stations will look like on the outside for the ones that we're proposing for this project. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. And this shows you a little bit of the landscaping of the two larger stations at Chestnut and Pleasant Bay East. So this is the Chestnut station. Chestnut Lane's over here. Martha Eaton cul-de-sac is over here. Our building is here, and then we have it surrounded by various vegetation, and the gravity sewer actually runs between the two cul-de-sacs. On Pleasant Bay East, and I apologize for the people that I'm standing in front of, it's set back from the road, it's down a little bit, and then it's surrounded by trees and has a driveway associated with it. The submersible station's electrical enclosure is generally looks like this. So you've got this kind of little shed configuration. Again, cedar shingles on the side, asphalt shingle roof, ASAC trim, and then it's got these double doors that are kind of set up like, trying to look like farm doors. And then it will have, electric meters and other things on the outside of it, but it's intended to look a bit more like a shed as opposed to, again, a brick building or just electrical panels outside. And then again, the 3 stations, so you have, this is the Route 39 intersection, so Route 39 is here, Church Street is over here, this is the split, the station's down closer to the fire, in the direction of the fire station. This is up on Wilma's Way. Town has an easement on private property for that, and then this is down at Bover Cove, it's at the cul-de-sac. So some of it's inside the edge of the cul-de-sac, and some of it actually sits in the pavement, the valve vault. I apologize, it is I know it's a little hard to see. And the presentation, I believe, Joe, is going to be posted on the town's website as well, so you'll be able to flip through the slides at your leisure afterwards. Traffic control. So in general, and this is just intended to show you one example, sort of boiled down from the contract documents. You're going to have various construction zones, and then in those construction zones, primarily on main roads, we're going to have that traffic to detour around. So depending on which section of the road we're working on, people will be asked to drive around. They'll have to, there's no easy way to put it. It'll be like things you had to experience when they did phase 2. Contractors are limited for the work they can do on the main roads, and when we're saying main roads, we're talking Pleasant Bay, Bay Road, Route 39, Kendrick, and Church. So on Route 39 in Pleasant Bay, there will be no major road construction in the summertime. Contractor may be out there to address an issue or things like that, but they can't be doing major road construction, laterals, force main, anything. And then on Bay, Kendrick, and Church, when they're at the point where they've got the main line in the summertime, they are allowed to do lateral work with 1-lane alternating traffic during the summertime on those streets. We talked with the police department in the town and worked through some of these things. And then detour routes and construction zones will be posted to the town webpage. We're going to be working with PD to make sure that the information is out there. We're working with the school department as well to make sure that the buses also are aware of that information. Now, it gets, unfortunately, not all roads have nice little detours. So in cases, and this is just an example in the neighborhood of Standish Woods, for some of the little sprigs that come off that are essentially dead-end roads, contractor's going to have to make sure that there's enough notification to the property owners that are on there, but there's going to be limited access during construction, but it's only during actual construction hours. So the road is supposed to be opened up at night. And then the police and fire department may actually station equipment at the ends of those roads to make sure that there is public safety taken care of in case as they're working through that area. And that decision is made with the town and police and fire with regards to that. And I believe that's consistent with what they did in phase 2 as well. In places like Standish Woods, where you have the neighborhood circle, you may have to drive all the way around the other way, depending on where they're working. So if they're working over here and you live on Martha Eaton, you may have to drive all the way around and out. It's not the end of the world. Similar things on Chestnut and other neighborhoods like Harding Lane and other places. So there are going to be places where the traffic pattern may change from day to day in terms of depending on where they are on the road, so you're just gonna have to pay attention to the construction signs. We ask for patience, we understand that it's an inconvenience, and we try to minimize that as much as possible. Craig knows it as well as I do, that, we want to try to keep the traffic flowing as best we can, but we know that we can't do it on everything. And then we'll make sure that the notices are getting out. In addition, through construction, we have a 2 or 3 week look ahead that will be posted so that people should at least be able to go on the website and have an idea, hey, these roads are coming up. We're looking at doing that. It is construction, things change. I think probably every one of you has experienced that one way or another. So again, we ask your patience. So what to expect during construction? I think a lot of you probably experienced that from phase 2, but in general, what's going to be happening is there'll be mainline sewer installation work happening first. Then there'll be laterals and force mains. The town will be going through, after the contractor has done what they need to do, we're going to coordinate how that's going to happen, but they'll make stormwater improvements as they need to go. The water department will be making their service replacements so that then the contractor they'll have temporary paving down, but you're likely to see construction on your road multiple times. So after they're done the first time and they temporary pave, they'll leave a patch or whatever. It's not going to be perfect, but it's intended to be drivable and the like. But they will be back multiple times. So it's very likely that they will be into your road, on a large number of times, possibly even as many as that for each one of those steps. And each one's going to have different levels of disturbance, but you should just be aware that it's not a one and done. Obviously, the contractor's going to work and try to do what they can to, they're going to try to be as efficient as they can be. And so this is sort of the worst case of spreading it all out. And then there is some water main work that's unrelated to the water services that has to do with the work over on Martha and Chestnut. But that's primarily going to be limited shutdown while we create isolation valves so we can keep those systems going and then make the interconnection between those 2 roads. Official project closeout is what to expect after construction. Contractor's going to come through and they're going to final pave all the roads. And then we go through the closeout process. So there's DEP approvals, clear water tests. There'll be connection notices that we sent out, a welcome package, a list of local engineers and sanitarians that do design. There's a list of licensed utility installers. There's sewer billing and irrigation deduct meters. You'll put in for an application for your sewer service connection. That'll be through the water and sewer department. Your septic system will be abandoned as part of that connection. There are tax credits available through the state of Massachusetts with regards to new sewer service similar to they had for septic system repairs. I believe it's in the same category, but I'm not positive. I'm not an expert on that. Cape Cod Aqua Fund has a county loan program, and I believe there was some other local assistance in there. Maybe joke, and you have more information on any of that. You can offer, say, 30 under the bus. And then grinder pumps, the town is formally working on their policy, but I believe the intent, and correct me if I'm wrong, is for the town to be purchasing the pumps for the property owners. Again, start of construction, contract 2W, up by Chestnut Pumping Station, November 4th. Contract 1E tentatively around February 3rd, or early in February. The construction duration is, under contract, is somewhere between 2.5 to 3 years, depending on the contract. And then after the construction is all completed, and it will have to be after the 1E contract, which is the longer contract, which is the bigger contract, is done, because the pumping stations, because the Chestnut system ties into the Pleasant Bay and other, the contract 1E contract. So until that's done, they won't be issuing any connection orders. So after both contracts are completed, then the town will begin the process of issuing their connection letters. And right now, I believe they give you 2 years from the date of the receipt of that connection letter.
I have a question.
Perfect timing.
I just have a question on the grinder pump.
So let me walk over,
I
like
see
Mario
why
Bowlers.
I have a question on the grinder pump situation. The town provides a grinder pump. Are they going to take the hole and all that stuff and have it go into?
That's an excellent question. The town is not going to be, so what the town is going to be doing is providing the grinder pump, and then as part of the process of getting your contractor to come to make the connection, they will install the grinder pump as part of that process. So it's not the town is just providing the equipment.
So, and do I understand you all, I can speak really loud.
Is everyone okay with that?
Do you have to have, what do you call it, a generator if you have a grinder pump?
You're not required to have a generator, but
Okay.
I want to answer the question. So you're not required to have a generator. The intent is that there will be a, what we call a pigtail or a generator connection, or as you're having it installed, you could have the grinder pump wired, and if you have a generator, have it connected that way. It's to the property owner's choice. It's not a bad idea to have a generator. But I can't speak to anything beyond.
So all of that is extra that homeowner has to pay for, the digging of the hole, getting the generator, that's all up to
Correct.
over and above.
The entire phase takes 2.5 to 3 years, right? How long will you be out in front of my house?
Where do you live?
Over Cove.
Where?
We're getting the pumping station on Over Cove.
Oh, I'm going to have memory probably on that road during 25, 30 days.
Are you working in the dark?
No,
Okay.
we don't.
February.
I have dark said that.
February.
The pumping station, you said on Mobico was going to be like a shed. That's not what was shown to me on the last meeting that we had. It was just there's a generator and then a green metal thing, but there wasn't a shed.
So I'm not aware of what was shown to you.
It's the same design that's on Harding Lane.
No, okay, so I'll correct that. So when Dan was here, there were some questions probably about what that was going to look like. And people don't like the green electrical enclosure. So we went with a shed-like enclosure as part of the process. So we were trying to improve the aesthetics as opposed to having a large green metal box that most people
How
don't.
tall is the shed?
So, let's see here. Let's see. There's dimensions on this one. Hold on a second. It is 8, is that 6 or 8? Sorry, my vision's really bad, and this is like a snapshot. But I believe it's 8 feet, and then it's got the pitch on the roof. So it's a shallow pitched roof, but it's gonna add a little distance. Probably eyeballing it, it might be 10 feet to the peak on one side and peak on the other.
And, I was looking at your diagram here. I don't know how you're gonna fill all that stuff on the circle there.
Yeah, well, so the Boca Cove location is very tight. It's not, the valve vault is actually going to be in the road, buried in the road, below the driving surface. We're actually extending the the island slightly, so we're kind of bulbing it out to cover the wet well, so at least it's in there, and we looked, so it doesn't really affect the turning because it's at the point. And then, yes, it is going to be, it's going to be very tight in that little location.
Hi, Noreen Donahue. I wanted to add some more information for this lady, and then I have a question for you. So I just wanted to say that the driver pump issues are very much in development. Every town around us is looking at the same things. But one possibility, and I'm not saying that would happen, is that towns sometimes have arrangements with a company, like a Wastewater or another company, not at their cost, at the resident's cost, but in other words, to make it convenient. So for instance, some companies will come out and attend to what needs to be done during a power outage for you. So if you chose to have the convenience of not having a generator and that expense and everything else, this would possibly still be an expense to you, but more like a service visit,
I don't understand. What
Okay.
happens?
In other words, let's say there was a power outage.
Right.
And if you were set up with a firm to do maintenance on your grinder pump, which you'll see anyway, some of those companies also would offer the service of rendering that power to you that's needed for only a brief period. The power only has to go on for 20 minutes or so. It's not like when there's a power outage for 4 days, you need power for the full 4 days. You just need it for long enough to make the pump work and then go on. So at any rate,
Okay.
I'm just saying hold back for a bit because there's a lot being talked about, and until we finalize the details of what this town will be able to do.
Do you have a sense of time? Are we talking a year from now, or?
I would say within the next few months possibly, or earlier than that even, because there are still some locations in the Phase 2 area that have either already gotten them or will need to have them. So it's right on the table right now. So
Okay, thank you.
now my question to Jeff is, so I understand the orders to connect probably wouldn't be going out till 2028 or late 2027 or thereabouts, but for the residents who want to be proactive and start to think about their design and where things might go, what would be the period for asking those questions, and what phone number would they call?
So, another great question. So right now, if people have questions about their location of their service, they can call town administration and they basically forward us the calls. I believe there is a list of, that go out in the welcome packet, and I guess the question to the water department is, can that list that will go out in the welcome package that I mentioned that Dan had identified that had licensed utility installers and things, I think it be presented.
That goes out in 2028, after the orders to connect.
I understand, but I think that in that welcome package, there's that list of engineers and other, so if you made that available and people wanted to engage in it, right now, we've been dealing with residents, and we've been getting comments from that, so we go out and I've met with actually some of their engineers as well, so there's nothing restricting anyone from doing
That information is on our website now, and has been the installers, the engineers, and things like that. But since this meeting is televised, I'd really like to hear the phone number to call if they have questions.
508-430-7513. That's 508-430-7513. You can ask for Joe. 508-430-7513.
7513?
7513.
Slow, please.
508-430-7513. Ask for Joe. Operators are not standing by right now, but they're going Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4.
I think there was a question.
Will there be a project manager from GHD on site every day during construction?
There will not be a project manager from GHD on site every day. So we will have a resident project representative that will be on site every day. And then we have project engineers and our project team coming out as needed for the construction. It's for linear construction, because it's not a building or a school, those kinds of things. You might have a clerk of the works or those other situations. You don't typically have that for collection system work. The important thing is that we have our resident inspectors, and we'll have potentially multiple resident inspectors depending on how many crews the contractor has. And then they're in contact with the project manager as it needs to be. And then I'm local, and if the project manager isn't available and I need to go out, then I go out, or I send an experienced engineer or another engineer to be able, depending on what the actual question is. I don't know if that answers. Does that answer your question?
Do you have an estimate of like what it will cost?
I do not have that number. I can see what information we have from other communities and things. Unfortunately, the cost to connect is going to depend on a lot of different things. How far away you are from the road. Where is your septic system now? Is it in front of your house? Is it in the back of your house? Are you trying to serve your basement, the depth of the sewer? What kind of things that they're going to ask the contractor to avoid? Do they have to go through your driveway? Is your driveway paved? Do they have to go through your yard? And is it just grass and it's wide open and very easy for the contractor? So I don't want to even espouse a number, because I don't want it to be presumed that everything's going to fall into that bracket. I apologize.
Can you just remind us when your opportunity to see where that lateral tie-in will be planned, and you said you had 2 weeks to say we'd rather have it 3 feet over here? When is that? When do we know?
So we work with the contractor to try to get out as early as we can on the roads that they're going to be starting with. So they have to be out at least, I believe, 2 weeks ahead of when they're going to be doing the work to actually do their markouts of where their proposed laterals are going to go.
So it hasn't been done yet?
No.
Okay.
So we'll be out. It's a real easy process. My name is Craig Trombley. I work for Robert Biala. It's a real easy process. We're going to stake it put a green stake with your lateral shown on the plan that GHD drew. At that point, if you're not happy with it or you have questions, or you might want to go somewhere else, GHD will have people out there, Robert Biala will have people out there. You can ask anybody for help, all right? Most of the times, the engineer has it right. 10% of the times, we're moving it.
I just wanted to add, you may want to start doing that now, contact any of the town, or come see me afterwards after this meeting. I'll certainly be available, and myself and my team to be out there if you have a particular question now. We've met with a couple of residents already, but if you want contact information. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to the town. They're just looking for you to me, so.
Safety officer on each construction site?
Question for Craig. Do you have a safety officer on site for the construction?
We have two company safety officers that are at our disposal anytime we need, but they were not here on site.
Many of the homes have underground utilities on their streets. Typically, those utilities should be on the easement and not on the property. So how will RBO handle the laterals on properties that have electric, gas, Comcast, and AT&T?
Excellent question. So we have to dig safe, we have to call in and dig safe, the utilities come out and mark those. And what we did, we had to locate them to be careful. If we hit them, we get nailed with a $5,000 fine automatic. And we have to prove to DPU why we hit it, or why it wasn't our fault. So we're very careful. Not to say we're going to hit something, because it's buried, we're going to hit it. But we're going to be careful.
Right, but the question I have is really related to if there's a utility line that's very close to the property line, will you extend and go long so that the homeowner later, when they have their contractor come in, doesn't have to worry about it because it's so close?
We will. If that's the case, we'll talk with GHD and, those construction and contractual issues with that, but it will be discussed.
During construction, there's going to be a tremendous amount of material, precast, piping, all kinds of stuff. There's going to be all kinds of workers. How's the neighborhood's going to know how all this stuff is going to be sort of circulated, stored, workers, staged?
So the first thing you'll see is the precast structures. We're going to line them up alongside the road where they're going to be. All the pipe, all the castings, there's a staging yard. It won't be on that street, but when it comes down to it, we will be staging, every time we can, we'll be staging castings for something on the side of the road to make our job easier and quicker. It depends. And if we damage it, we'll fix it. But, I mean, we're digging anywhere from 8 to 20 feet around. Sometimes we can't stay in the confines of the roadway. So the precast is probably made 15 to 20 days before it's scheduled to be installed. So you're looking at 15 to 20 days sitting there before it's installed.
I can talk about it. We're on Pleasant Bay Road, 47 Pleasant Bay Road. We're not sure if we're part of this phase 3. It depends on the funding. I understand. So when might that decision be made? This year? Next year? In 3 years?
So I'd have to see where your location is, but if you go on to that phase 3 map, and if your parcel doesn't have a color associated with it, it isn't part of this construction project.
Are we covered? So we are part.
There was 3 stages that needed funding. I guess Walden Woods was one of them, and that's out now. And then there was...
Oh, okay, so you're closer to 137.
137.
Yeah, so all of the bid alternates are in the project except for Walden Way. So if it was a bid alternate area, they were all accepted by the town, being done by the contractor with the exception of Walden Way. So you would, if your parcel is colored and it's not in that Walden Way area, right now your parcel is part of the project. If it doesn't have a color associated with it, it's just outside or, could be in an adjacent area. And if you have further questions, by all means, reach out to us.
Would you know if the pump station's big?
we're subbing out the pumping station.
No, the wet well is precast.
Phase
No,
two,
rebuild.
phase two, yes.
So, yeah, we couldn't hear all of that.
Okay, so the I'm sorry, so the question was whether or not the pumping station units were basically like a prefabricated station or being done by a subcontractor to the contractor. In phase two, some of the stations kind of came as a unit and were placed down. These are actually being, fabricated, like the parts are being assembled by they're putting all the station together. And they may be using subcontractors to do that work, but it's not coming as like one unit and being just plopped in. It's not like plug and play kind of. For lack of a better term.
So the question was, are we building the pump stations? So Jeff showed you the suction lift stations. Those lift stations are a little bigger. They have CMU walls. They have trusses on them. They're rather large. The lift stations are stations that push the liquid. So it's basically a glorified, nice looking, very nice looking shed, Jeff, by the way. Good? Did that answer it?
You don't need to come back here, Jeff. I can speak up.
All right.
Can you just give a quick synopsis of, some people have the option of going grinder pump and some people, the same people have options of doing gravity. If you have a choice of doing both, can you give the pros and cons of both in a couple minutes, or is it more complicated than that?
No, there may be a property that abuts both a gravity sewer on one side and then has low pressure sewer on the other, usually on like a corner lot. So the advantage of a low pressure system is that it's shallower excavation. They can dodge things, like if you had a tree or a rose bush or something like that, it's a little bit easier. I'm not saying it's the easiest, but it is easier to avoid that than it is by gravity, which has to be very straight lined. So the advantage of the low pressure is you could dodge some of those things. You might even be able to directional drill, have the contractor jack and bore the force main, things like that. I mean, there are different options. If you're doing gravity sewer, they are going to be basically open cut, and then if the sewer is deeper, like if you had to be deeper to be gravity on one road and shallower to go to the low pressure, that's the other difference. The advantage of gravity is that you won't have a grinder pump. So the preference is to get as many people onto gravity as possible. Now, some people may consider, can I replumb in my house and come out maybe the front of my house instead of out to the back where my septic system is, and be able to make that gravity sewer connection? So some of those parcels that are, I can't remember if they're yellow, or I think they're yellow, you may be able to do things, or you may say, well, I don't really have anything in the basement. I just had to be deep because my septic system is in the backyard, which is down a hill. And so when they built my house, and I have a walkout basement, I, did this, but I have the ability to serve my first floor bathrooms and come out the front or a different way. There are ways to do that. Again, the advantage of having the gravity is that you don't have the pump.
Thank you.
Does anyone answer your question?
I think that's really loud.
Okay.
If you're in the yellow-orange, everyone around me is gravity, and I'm yellow-orange, and it's probably because they don't know what's going on with my property. So should I call Joe at 5:40 p.m.?
Yes, you should. So in that case, if you have questions, what we would do is we could come out to your house and we could could walk through what the situation is. And then you're still gonna have to have an engineer come and actually design your system. But we could at least talk through some of the options with you. And more likely than not, if your house is yellow or red, there's still the opportunity that maybe there's something that, on a house that's red, maybe they could replumb, but we can't make that assumption. So we're making the assumption that, you know, the way your house is built and that you're set down from the road, or there wasn't any septic system information available, or a long distance from the road, because that also affects how you can connect by gravity. All those things come into play. So it's very easy for us, you know, I'm more than willing to come out, I'll come out, you know, we have other people that can come out and kind of talk it through with you. If we think it's complicated, and we might want to have Craig or one of his crew come out and look at it as well, and give us their opinion on how to best serve that. We do that as well. I know RVO is local. They actually make a lot of connections for a lot of people as well, so they understand what people are dealing with at their properties. So, you know, we try to work with the residents as best we can on that kind of stuff.
So theoretically, we don't all have to hire an engineer.
No, I have to look, I think you'd have to look at the town's regulations. I think an engineered plan is required as part of the connection.
Okay.
So it's a second step. So you could go and just hire an engineer and do that. The concern that the concern that we've issued to people is you design it right now before Craig's done anything, and something comes up during during construction. There's a conflict. We have to adjust where the sewer is. You could have expended money on your sewer service connection, and it turns out that now that plan has to change because the sewer actually changed because there was some unforeseen condition. So that's the caution. So, but we can meet with you beforehand.
So just a quick question, can RVO provide an
Wait,
estimate?
hold just 1 second, I just want to add to the answer. And I want to also add for the record, we're joined this evening by our Director of Planning and Community Development, Christine Flynn. Christine, give us a wave, thank you. And our Health Director, Carrie Schoner. And Carrie just confirmed to me, and I apologize, there is perhaps little distinction, but the town would accept plans from an engineer and or a registered sanitarian, correct? Thank you. So the town of Harwich fought for that change in the regulations, so it is one of those professionals that can help in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can RVO provide an estimate of when construction will begin on the Chestnut Lane pump station?
Question was, can RVO present a schedule on the construction of the Chestnut Lane pump station?
Well, an estimate of when it will begin.
Right around 12/27, 2024, so this year, all right? And that's going to go for at least 6 to 8 months.
Right.
Coca-Cola is money, we haven't finalized that yet.
So the Bova Cove, so the question was about the Bova Cove pumping station. So the pumping stations that we talked about that were in the contract 1E, so Pleasant Bay East, Bova Cove, Route 39, and Wellness Way, are not going to start until after February 3rd, to be determined. So we don't have their schedule yet. They just gave us an idea that probably 3 months after they start 2W, they're going to be looking to, you know, get ramped up for the 1E project, and then those dates will come out afterwards. Yes.
How may this project impact any planned reservations in any residence? If you want to add a bedroom, or are you going to add an outbuilding that may have septic needs? What's the impact, the potential impact?
So I understand your question. If you have plans to expand your house or do an addition or something like that, then it wouldn't change, if you're getting a sewer connection, you're getting a sewer connection. Now, if you're doing a major renovation, that would change the type of your connection, like you're raising grade, and you can now connect by gravity versus low pressure, that may change, only if you're your road is served by gravity sewer. So anyone that's served by a low pressure sewer in their road will never have that option of gravity, because that's the design of that collection system. But if you're on gravity and your property is one of those that's been flagged as red or yellow, meaning might have to pump or will have to pump, that'll change. But as long as you get through all your other requirements, I don't believe it doesn't change there's no flow restriction. I don't believe in that, Joe.
Thank you, Jeff, I appreciate that. I believe the phrase I'm supposed to utter is flow neutral, meaning whether you are on septic now and you go to sewer, that is not meant to change your capabilities in your property. Am I saying that? Here we go. Further tagged out to Gary Shun, our health director. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. So in regards to additional flow, we do have a flow neutral agreement with Chatham. The way that's defined is if it is in current regulations with Title V, so you have to demonstrate that you can fit a fully compliant septic system to accommodate the additional flow that you want to add in order for us to approve it.
Stands for the cluster development. And from what I understand, they were allowed. From what I understand, standards was the cluster development, and they were allowed to have a fourth bedroom. Currently, most of them have 3 bedrooms, but the fact that we have the cluster development, where there's 35 extra acres of open space, so we're allowed to have a fourth bedroom.
So I would have to review the file, but any previously approved bedroom designations for your property would remain. So if you have a 3-bedroom currently, but you have a 4-bedroom designation as part of that development, you would be allowed the 4th bedroom.
Thank you.
Did we get another question?
Yeah, I asked before about workers. I mean, do they have a central parking lot, or is one going to be established, or, I mean, how big are your crews? Are they just 3 or 4 guys, or is it?
So the crew's typically 6-person crew. Approximately 5 workers, 2 operators, 2 laborers, and a foreman. Plus we have 3 trucks on the crews. So the crew will have a crew truck, one will park on the road somewhere, and then the crew members will park anywhere they can.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we will have resident rep as well, which will have one vehicle as well, representing the community. So, one people out.
I have a related question to that. On Bova Cove, if our road is blocked because the construction is happening and we can't drive into our cul-de-sac to get to our houses, Route 39 is not a safe option for my mom and my neighbors to park there and like walk into our houses. So what's the vision there?
It's a good question. So our crews are very curious. And once you get to know what time we start, what time we close up, if you got to get out, you're going to be talking to the crew members. And they're very polite, they're curious. And you just got to tell me, I got to get out at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and they'll accommodate you best they can.
Okay.
We're not going to shut you down. We're not going to make you park in an unsafe area on Route 39.
Okay, thank you.
That's our cue. So we're going to wrap up in a moment, but I think you can see to my right, the line is queuing up to give your contact information directly to Ivan, with 5 passes, go see Joe. But whether it is the town, excuse me, please don't hesitate to call. As Ivan and Jeff have said, we, the town of Harwich, will make sure we get it to GHD. I want to thank you all for coming out this evening.
Thank you.
Please watch select board meetings. We will be updating constantly as the construction project begins. I want to especially thank Matt Hamilton, Harwich Channel, for making sure this is recorded tonight. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.